Hey YouTube, this is the second half of the video for this guitar now I've set it up. It was just a slight, just needed a setup really. I did a video for it yesterday but didn't actually play it. I'm actually going to start off by playing my Westone Thunder one bass that's been painted, not by me, by a local artist, as a backing track. This is a similar era, this is an 83 one. So by going by that, that's an 81. In 83 they were still using the what I call the cartoon logo, although that one's gold, that one's just black. So maybe there's a transition point where it's black to going into gold. This era, still using the brass knobs, but the tuners now say Westone on them, although this is a bass, so maybe the bass ones always did. They'll be the same tuners, just go top out ones. So I was going to put something in here for, I don't know, sounds good. And I'll play the guitar. I was going to say I'm playing through the orange AC30, TH30 behind me. I'll pause that and make it work. Turn it on, that's through the bass. Obviously that's going through the bass amp, whereas this has now come to, yeah. So I mean, what a joy it was to work on this, to be honest. This whole thing about, see when you get a guitar that was this 81, so it's like 41 years old. This is the sort of condition a 41-year-old guitar should be, as in, yeah, you know, there's sort of slight hairline scuffs, a couple of little dents round about it, but it's still really good condition and still really nice. The way I would have it if I had a guitar that I'd had for 40 years, it would have, and you look after it, it still looks new. But just wee things, like I had to do it. I think what's happened is someone's had a go. This has been a well looked after guitar, and the previous owner has done their best to set it up and keep it clean. They didn't really know what they were doing, sort of thing. There's an awful lot, there's so much you can do setting up a guitar using measurements. You know, it's like, oh, it should have 1 millimeter here, and you know, all that. An awful lot of it's to do with feel and just through total experience. In my method of setting up guitars, I must have set up 300 guitars, more than that, some stupid anyway. More than that, way more than that. I've probably set up 500 guitars, and I'm talking about setting them up, starting off with something that doesn't even have a neck on it. So it's like I'm just, how much do you turn the truss rod? How much do you turn it? I know, just from having done it so many times, and how you just know these things from experience. I think that's kind of difference if you're going to like a guitar settee up guy, someone who's done it for 30 years, assuming they're good at it. So this one was playing lovely, and I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't have noticed as soon as I played it. I was like, the action's too low. It had that spanky, doesn't have it anymore. Now it's clear as a bell. And it's not like I didn't raise it a much. It's not a feel thing, because once you get the action down to like, well, what have I got this set at just now? I did it by eye. 1.25 mil, 1.25 millimeters, which I think is probably around about, that's about right. Once you get below 1, it doesn't feel any different, but it just goes, which is really good for if you don't want any dynamics in your playing at all, which a lot of people aren't interested in. I like to be able to go, you know, when you hit a big chord, there's enough room for it to actually vibrate. You know, you could give it a good Pete Townsend brang, and it does it, but it's also still low enough for you to. So, as far as I can tell, this guitar is all original. It was just also, I know, praising this stuff a lot, but see things like when I was setting an intonation on this bridge, partly because it's a really good bridge, it's solid brass and all that, and because it's pretty clean. I told the guy I told Gordon when I was up here, this, see if you brasso that, it'll come up like the Lost City of the Incas, pure ridiculous. but it takes ages, and it doesn't really make any difference to the sound. And the thing is, it goes kind of dull, because the problem with these is it's super brassy, and then it's lacquered to keep it shiny. So the thing is, if you clean this, you take off all the lacquer, it goes super, and then after 6 months it's back to being dull. And you're like, oh, so it's kind of not worth it. But solid brass. But just the things like, see, turning the screws on it, and they all just turn smoothly. Wow, you know, there's so many guitars I get to set up, and it's like you're sitting there, you have to WD-40 the screws, and you're sitting there just trying, I don't want to chew the heads, and you're sitting there fidget. This one you just put it in and just turned it. And it's not like I don't think it had been specifically oiled or set up like that. It's just been looked after, and it's just a high quality parts. So we've got two volumes and a volume and two tones with a brass knob. So we've got bridge bucker, bridge single com, neck bucker, neck single com. I'll put this on. Less tone. Start sweating already. It's really hot in here today. Bridge single com. There's a tone at nothing. Both single cars. Neck bucker. coil bridge. Go for both pickups on in single coil. Yeah, wow. I know. When you make a mistake, you keep playing it. I don't know, there's an element of maybe not just keep playing the same mistake and it sounds intentional. Really the wrong note. Yeah, no, this guitar's an absolute banger. Banger being a good thing. I don't mean banger like an old car that's beat up. So I have so much time for these guitars. The reason I don't have one, I don't know. I've got a couple that are kind of similar, but I don't actually have a Thunder. But I mean, if you're really talking about if you can only have one electric guitar, buy one of these. It's better than a Gibson. Kind of better than a really good Gibson. This is as I said before, this is the Gibson-y one, the Thunder, so your Gibson scale length. But as you heard there, I especially see that in the middle position. I've just turned the amp off, haven't I? In the middle position, that when they're both split, it's really got that Fendery. The variety of tones that comes out, this is just ridiculous, and it doesn't have stupid amounts of switches. Later on ones I think do. I mean, it's like you can argue whether I think I'm not sure if you can get one that's got, like, if it's got two switches, you can maybe coil split each one of these separately. The way this switch has only got one extra switch, so basically it's down. These are both humbuckers, but you can choose either one or both, or up. These are both single coils, but you can choose either one or both. Whereas obviously you could have another switch that just split this one, so you could have like humbucker and single coil. It's dead easy to fit that. I don't think you really gain that much. Not considering the range of tones you can get at this one. I'm not using any effects. I'm using the clean channel on the orange, and I was using a rat pedal for the distortion, so my effect was rat pedal. Nothing adjusted. I didn't even do anything special. It's just the way it's normally set. All the dials at 12 o'clock. But I mean, a truly wonderful guitar, and it's really nice to see one in good condition. I think one of the problems with these is if you go back 10 or 20 years, because these weren't, it doesn't say Gibson or Fender on it. I mean, this would have been in the Oasis era. This would have been incredibly frowned upon because it's not. Oh, you're much better off with an Epiphone Les Paul. And in what way is an Epiphone Les Paul better than this? In absolutely no way can any even your, oh, but I've got the Pro one with Gibson pickups. Nothing like as good as this guitar. Any Epiphone. If you go back long enough, back to the 80s, and get a Japanese Epiphone made by Matsumoku, it's getting near this because it's made by the same factory. But this is a couple of years later when they were making their own stuff and they tried harder with this. So it's better than an Epiphone, the best Epiphone ever. Okay, you do get Epiphones from the 50s, but they didn't make Les Pauls and stuff like that back then. And even compared to, I mean, this compared to my Gibson SG, when I did Gibson SG a few weeks ago, I mean, yeah, it was an SG, so it was really cool, and SGs are amazing, and I get that because, you know, Tony Iommi and George Harrison and Angus Young and all Robbie Krieger and all this is up here. Yeah, so I understand the desire to have an SG. That's why I bought one when I was, I don't know, 18 or whatever it was. It was like, once I could play all the War Pigs, I was going to buy myself a real Gibson SG, and it's great. I've got like a really good one as well. I've got like an SG Special from the 90s, from 1 year. I can't remember. It's got ebony fingerboards. It's like a much higher spec SG Special than what you would get now as a standard, probably. It's not as good as this. It's not as good a guitar. I can't really argue that it is, really, apart from the fact that, but look, here's a picture of Tony Iommi playing one, and it's like, well, okay. But apart from that, there's nothing in this. I mean, it balances perfectly. I like the shape. You do have to get used to the shape. I like this shape. Later on, Westone had a Spectrum guitar, which is sort of the shape, but a little bit more strat. I don't like the shape of it. There's something a bit purely aesthetic. It kind of looks a bit. I think it might go back to my first ever bass was a Westone Spectrum, and I absolutely hated it. I didn't like the shape of it, and I think maybe that sort of dislike of that shape has travelled on to now. But I mean, I just think it's the best of everything. So this is like if you're a Gibson preferer, you buy the Thunder. Also, Thunders are a bit more famous, but there's another one, a Concorde, which is, it's the same shape, but it's got a one piece Fender type neck 6 on the side, and it's a 25.5-inch scale. I think it's exactly the same pickups, and mine's got two switches on it. I've got the phase switch and the coil split. Basically the same, but just a wee bit more Fendery. So it's like a Fender that does all the Gibson sounds, as opposed to this being a Gibson which does all the Fender sounds, or not all of them, but it can You had the single coils there. They're fantastic. And also one of these things you don't offer that often CDs with upgraded pickups because you didn't need to upgrade the pickups because the pickups in it are awesome. They're just like DiMarzio Super Distortions. If that's what you like, they're fine. Try and find these pickups on their own. They're really expensive because people nowadays know what they are. Once the snobbery goes away of going, oh, but they're not DiMarzios, they're not Seymour Duncans either. Oh, I can't have a guitar that doesn't have Seymour Duncans in it. Oh no, that's that. I bought it from the shop, I took it home and I didn't even plug it in. I put in my Seymour Duncans. Oh, and it's like, why didn't you try the pickups that were in it? Maybe they were there for a reason. Anyhow, rock on. I'm in the studio tonight. I've left this one a little bit late. I've actually got a few guitars I've got to do up. But I mean, I could play this all afternoon. If I was in the studio tonight with the band that I play guitar in, not the band I'm playing bass, because it wouldn't really work if I turned up to the Sabbath band and go, oh, I brought in a guitar this week. And they're going to go, right, so we're going to be playing with 2 guitars and drums and no bass then, so it's not really an option. Plus it's not my guitar. Plus I'm a wee bit conscious of it sweating on it just now. I'm going to have to wipe it down. It was quite hot in here when I started, but because they've got a window there, and if that window's open, I figured you could probably hear me all down the street. They could probably hear me anyway, but it'll make it louder, so I closed the window, and as soon as I did, it just started going with the temperature. But see, it was amazing. See, I woke up this morning not feeling hungover. That's one of the joys about drinking is like when you don't drink and you wake up in the morning and you just go. I woke up and just went. Actually, after 2 days in a row I've been drinking, so 2 mornings in a row I've been waking up and going. Ugh. This morning I woke up and it was like pure woohoo. Let's go. Rock on, like and subscribe. I changed that to like. I'm going to start saying that because I keep watch these YouTubers. Everyone's always like, oh, subscribe and like, and it's like they've got millions of views, so they're getting like £100,000 a year from YouTube, and I'm not asking to like and subscribe, and I'm getting like, I'm normally getting £60 a month. Whoa, rocking, love you all.